Just to start off, do you have an earliest musical memory from your childhood when music started to have an effect on you?
You know, when I was about probably 3 years old, I can remember singing in the church congregation and just really, really singing my heart out. And this one guy turned around and looked at me and gave me a look like I wasn't sure if he liked it or if he didn't like it. And it kind of like stifled me for a while. But I can remember just really enjoying the music first in our church hymns. I grew up Catholic, and that was probably the first music I ever heard was our church music.
I believe you began playing piano first, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Well, the trumpet was my first instrument. At 10 years old, I took trumpet in the school band, and that was my first instrument. Then the piano was in the house. You know, I used to play around on it and stuff like that. But the first instrument I was taught how to play was the trumpet.
Now, I believe your family history shows that yours was one of the first families to settle in the St. Landry parish where you grew up. Is that right?
That's right. You know, my family has been in Louisiana for over 200 years now, and they were some of the first to go, settle in that area of Mallet, Louisiana.
Wow.
Back in the 1700s.
So when and where did you first discover Zydeco?
Well, I first discovered Zydeco music. It's sort of a style of music I grew up with. We used to have these dances at our church, and our church hall used to give these benefit dances once a month as a fundraiser for the church, and that's where I first heard Zydeco music.
Tell us about some of the Zydeco pioneers that inspired you. I believe you got to meet some of them actually, and some of them actually acted as mentors toward you.
That's right. You know, John Delafosse, who's no longer with us, he was one of the guys who inspired me, as well as Clifton Chenier and Rockin' Sidney.
Yeah, they're great names, aren't they? I believe Zydeco didn't have a big profile when you started out. Was there a particular time when you could feel the momentum changing and people starting to take interest?
Yeah, I kind of felt the momentum changing back in the early 80s, I'd say around 84, when New Orleans was the host city for the World's Fair. After the World's Fair, there were more tourists coming to Louisiana, and more people were bringing Zydeco music to their home, homeland, bringing it to different states where it had never been before, in different countries. And a lot of that had to do with the New Orleans World's Fair.
Uh-huh. How would you describe Zydeco music to somebody who's uninitiated and not familiar with it?
Okay, well, Zydeco music is the music of the Louisiana Creoles. It's a style of music where the two main instruments is the accordion and the rubboard. And it's soulful music, it's got mixtures, it's fused with a little jazz, a little blues, a little rock and roll, a little reggae, a little funk, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, kind of like our food, and our people.
It's like a musical gumbo, isn't it?
Like a musical gumbo or jambalaya.
You've taken Zydeco music to the world, but what countries in particular have you found have taken to the music almost immediately?
Well, just about everywhere we go, people connect with the music, and I think that, the reason for that is because it's a multiracial, multicultural style of music that, was created from, a lot of people coming together, from different parts of the world. just to take my family alone, I'm part French, African, Spanish, Native American, and German. And most of the Creole people here are like me, multiracial, multicultural. And, all these different cultures influence the music. And wherever you go in the world, people can make a connection with it. Like, it's something they connect with right away, because it's like, I don't know, maybe, draws from some, a culture, their own culture, history.
One person I've often seen your vocal style compared to by people that review music is that of Sam Cooke. Was Sam an influence on you?
Oh, a huge influence. He was our family favorite. He was just we had a couple of his songs, and just was really, really, his music was played a lot around me growing up.
One early break that you got in your career was having your inclusion in the movie The Big Easy. Looking back now, how important do you see that inclusion in that film as a way of establishing a profile for you and your music at the time?
That was a very important film for me, and I think it was a very important film in exposing the world to our culture, the colorfulness of our culture. The movie itself was one of the first of its kind, where it actually showed, a side of New Orleans that the world never seen. The actors going into the clubs, having a crawfish boil with a band on a porch. It was just it really showed the culture of the Creoles and the Cajuns of the New Orleans area.
Another early break you got at a young age was being asked to play on Paul Simon's Graceland sessions. That must have been a great thrill for you at that stage.
Oh, that was an incredible feeling. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was like, pinch me, I'm dreaming. I was a kid, who grew up in a small, not even a town, a little small community in the middle of nowhere. And here it was at 19 years old, I was going in the studio with Paul Simon, who came to Louisiana, and it was an incredible experience, incredible opportunity, and I just, it was just a stroke of luck, that it happened.
How did Paul connect with you?
Well, Dickie Landry, who's a saxophone player famous saxophone player who played with a lot of different people like Philip Glass, and did a tour with Laurie Anderson, and just a number of different people, was the guy who was like getting bands together for Paul Simon, for him to research Zydeco music. He had heard Clifton Chenier and heard Buckwheat Zydeco in New York City, and wanted to include a Zydeco song on his Graceland record. And he met Dickie in New York City, and Dickie helped him, get some bands in the studio. And we were one of the bands that Dickie had heard at a restaurant called Mulots, who the owner had encouraged Dickie to come out and see the band. The owner, Kerry Boutte, was really into the band, and we were a young upstart band, and knew that Dickie was gathering these bands together for Paul Simon. So he came out and heard us, and they liked what they heard, and got us in on the session. And it was my band, Buckwheat Zydeco, and the late Rockin' Doopsie Sr.
Wow.
And he ended up choosing the late Rockin' Doopsie Sr.'s record to go on the actual Graceland record. But we did a song where he sung background vocals on a Clifton Chenier song that I sung for him in the studio, and he gave it to us to put out on our own, and that really helped out my career.
That was a multi-Grammy Award-winning album, and you received a Grammy yourself earlier this year, which must have been a great thrill for you. Has that opened new doors for you?
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. You know, it just immediately you get recognition that you know what I'm saying, overnight. You know, but it's like, you know, it took 27 years to get it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, you know, has done a big positive shot of positive stuff for our career, you know.
Yeah. Now, it was for a live album that was recorded from shows at various places around the world. You must have had a wealth of live material to choose from. What criteria did you use to narrow it down to one CD?
Well, I looked at the songs that I wanted to do, and the songs is really what made it, you know, what made my decision. And I picked you know, some of the best materials from different shows, and that's pretty much how it came about.
Your music is a style of music that really shines in a live situation. How do you try to recapture that feel working in the confines of a studio?
Well, you just go and try to do your best, you know. The studio it's a whole different animal than you know, a live performance, and you want to try to make it to where people can envision your live performance, but at the same time, you know, be able to listen to it, listen to the music, you know, and hear it done in the best possible way you could do it, you know.
And another recent release of yours, which is a favourite of mine, is the Tribute Sessions. And obviously, it was a project that was very dear to you. Was there a particular inspiration behind that CD in terms of using the narrative pieces between the tracks?
Well, that's just an idea that I thought of, you know, that it would be real nice, you know, to just kind of give an explanation to the people who would listen to the CD, what each song and each artist meant to me. And I just wanted to paint a picture of how, you know, my style of what I do came about. You know, it's influences from a lot of different places, and you know, the narration was the best way for me to actually explain it to everybody, because if you play the songs, you know, all the songs without the stories, you know, without the explanation, it would be hard to, you know, figure out what the CD was all about.
Yeah. Another project you're involved with, which I'm sure is very dear to you, is Creole for Kids. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Creole for Kids in the history of Zydeco is just, you know, a CD that we put out that we wanted to try to explain to kids the history of the music and how the music evolved throughout the years, and, you know, also explain to them some of the key people who were responsible for making the music what it is today and keeping it alive so that it, you know, it could still be with us, you know, and all that, and kind of give a little idea of what life is like for a kid growing up in this part of the world.
Right, and you take that around schools too, don't you?
Yeah, we do some live performances as well. In fact, we did one in Sydney for the Sydney Fest about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it was sort of like a little small performance, but as part of a variety show with different artists. But we did do a small performance of Creole for Kids. But we've been fortunate enough to reach over 500,000 kids now in the past 7 years since we've been doing it. And this year we just completed a tour in Canada where we did a tour of kids festivals in Vancouver, in Calgary, Edmonton, Penticton, and Winnipeg, and we still getting requests to do the kids show in throughout the summer, and even next year we have some stuff for.
Oh, that's fantastic. I believe you've been working on a book for children as well.
That's right. We're working on a book, and it's kind of a follow-up to the CD. And, we just want to try to explain to the kids, explain the culture in a format where they can understand it.
Now, is that right? You're on the board of governors for the Recording Academy?
Yeah, I held 2 terms on the board of governors of the Recording Academy, and I'm no longer on the board. But Cynthia, my wife, is still on the board. She's actually on the board of trustees as well as the board of governors in Memphis, and she's a national trustee, and just really working hard to keep our music, on the radar with all the rest of the styles of music in the Grammy organization.
And what about upcoming recording plans, Terrance? What's on the horizon for you?
Well, we're always working on stuff, I'm going to do another studio CD at the end of this year, and it should be out next year. I'm hoping for maybe a spring or maybe early summer release for next year. But this year we're very busy touring. We have a real heavy touring schedule this year to tour with the Grammy Award winning album. And we're going to do that, and finish that off, and then go back in the studio. And I got a lot of different ideas I'm working on, for the next CD. Got some friends that I want to try to get on as special guests, and I just hope it can all work out the way I want it to.
Yours has been a great success story, and well earned. What career advice would you give to a young musician just starting out on the road now?
Well, I would say, if this is what you want to do it. But once you start, don't stop. Make sure it's what you want to do. But the only way to be successful in anything is to, just keep on doing it. I've been doing it for 27 years now. And there's been a lot of ups and downs and crazy turnarounds, and just like anything else, any other job, it's you get out what you put into it, and I think the most successful people in music are the ones who never quit, It can be the highs can be some of the highest, and the lows can be some of the lowest, but you gotta just suck it up when it hits you hard, and then keep going, And I think the people who last, who end up being successful in music, is the ones who just stick with it.
Yeah, that's great life advice, not just music advice. That's fantastic.
I'm sorry, what you said?
I said that's just great advice for life, not just for a music career. What you just told me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's how everything is,
Terrance, thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure catching up with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
No problem at all. And we look forward to your next visit to Australia. I'm sure it won't be too long. You're always a welcome visitor here, you know that.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it, too. I hope it's soon.
Absolutely. I'll let you get back and enjoy the rest of your day. Sounds lovely over there. I can hear the birds singing in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm outside on my swing, and it's a like I said, I'm in the shade of a tree, but It's one of those hot summer days, steamy hot summer days in South Louisiana, you know.
I'm talking to you from a cold Melbourne morning, so I'd swap you any time.
All right. You got a deal.
Thanks a lot, Terrance. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.